Hey everyone, this is Rob from RuinWorks, here with our latest scene, which is called Abbey Crossing. Here we can see scene, it's 32 wide by 35 high. We have up here at the top right our layers tool, and you can see we've listed 9 levels underwater through 7th floor. And then the 7th floor does have a little roof here, which I'll just show. If you go into the roofs, look, we can see the tower top. So here we have the 7th floor, which is just going to be this bell tower right here in the middle of the scene. 6th floor, just this wall in the bell tower as well. There's a little ladder here, which is used for climbing up to the bell. Level 5, which I've named the bell tower balcony. So that's right here. We can see the bell tower balcony, and now we start getting into the more lived in levels. 4th floor, we can see some living quarters and some stairs up to the tower and balcony. 3rd floor, which I call the Abbey courtyard, as it exists with this little courtyard at the top and a bunch of different rooms, kitchens, fireplaces, bedrooms, storage rooms. In the Abbey, 2nd floor, which is mostly just staircases and this dining room and bedroom, and then the 1st floor, which I'd include as the hillside, so kind of up here where we can see it's all hilly, some storage areas and some stairs down, and then our ground floor, which is our main floor. You can see this is where the river is. This is where the majority of the ground is located as well, and as well we have a bit of a crypt beneath the Abbey hidden. I'll get to that in a second. And then lastly, we have an underwater region. We have a water tile here that's set as an overhead tile, and then some sound bubbles as well that'll make it sound like any tokens that are in here are underwater. So maybe I'll start here and I'll walk through the scene with the token and show you everything that is involved. Okay, so here we first have a token, so I'll bring them down so we can go into the underwater level quickly. Should be able to hear a bit of water splashing in the background. Those are sound bubbles on the main elevation, just so people understand that the water is moving around a bit. Okay, so we take our token down to -10 level. Hopefully you can hear it in the background. Kind of a submersion sound with the token. So your players will look like they're underwater as they're underneath the overhead tile, and also hopefully sound like they're underwater. Now if we go up to elevation 0, this is our ground elevation. I imagine most of this river is probably only 3 to 4 feet deep, obviously within deeper areas. So for most of it, players can just walk through. Maybe it's difficult terrain, but most of the time players will be able to walk through on this level. I want to point out that a lot of this Abbey up to the north of my token is overhead tiles, so if you have a token selected and you hover over those tiles, they'll disappear. So you can see what's actually on the ground floor. So you can see he can actually walk underneath some of these buildings in the water in order to see what's really good. And then if you hover your mouse over these tiles, they'll also disappear. So you can see what's on your own elevation. Next up, I'm going to take my token over to the left of the scene here, and we have this new icon, which I haven't used in my scenes before. It's the first time just trying it out, want to see what everybody thinks about it. It is this little eyeball symbol with an arrow. So essentially, whenever you see one of these, you can double click on them and see what the scene looks like from this angle. So here we'd have our eyeball, so you're looking from left to right at this location, and if you have a token selected, you can just double click on it, and it's going to provide you an image of what the scene is supposed to look like in picture form. So this was done in TinyGlade. This is kind of where I was just fooling around with it and came up with this idea for the scene. So I made the scene into maps, and then I thought it would be cool if players could wander the map, but also actually see what the Abbey looks like from their perspective. The stairs leading up to the Abbey courtyard level, we can see the bridge over the lake, and we can kind of see some trees in the distance. Now, it's not 100% represented on the map, but I think it's close enough that you can get an idea of what is meant to be illustrated by the map. So if we take our token, just going to run him across the water here. That is, there is another viewpoint south of the Abbey. If you double click on it here, we can see what the Abbey looks like from another angle. So we can see the south side of the Abbey and the bridge over. So before, hopefully you can see my mouse on the picture, that's where the last picture was taken from. If we follow to the other side of the Abbey, there's another viewpoint, so there's players over here. They can double click on this one. Now we see the eyes pointing the other direction, so that's the direction in which you're looking. If you double click on it, we can see how the Abbey looks from this side, just to give your players a bit better understanding of what they're actually looking at when they're looking at the map now. And then I think we have one more way over here at the north side. So I just tried to capture all sides of the buildings, and they can see what the Abbey looks like from over here. Anyways, I thought it'd be a cool thing to do. If you don't like them, you can always go to your tile tool, select the tile, and just delete it and remove it from the scene if you don't like that option or you don't think the images suit the map. Now, next with our token, I'll just point out that we do have some trees in the scene. So we can see one here. If you walk underneath it, it does fade a little bit. And this is actually showing only the canopy layer. So if you put your token up to elevation 10, they'll be in the trees. So he's actually in the tree, and there's still some leaves and stuff around him. And then if you put him up to 20, he'll actually be on top of the trees. We can see this kind of a multiple layered tree here. So there's one tree in this location, and then there's another tree over here. In the middle of the map, beneath the Abbey itself, we can see looks like a bit of a crypt. So there's also a transform button beside the crypt. If we double click on that, it'll remove the sarcophagus or the dead body in this crypt and just replace it with some doors. I provide this option in case you want to keep the adventure located on this scene only. You can leave it as a script. If you want to have it expand into a dungeon beneath the Abbey, you can change it to the set of double doors, and the set of double doors can lead to that other scene. So a lot of my scenes start with a set of stairs, so you could just describe that beyond these doors a set of stairs leads down, and then take your players to that next scene. So all I need to do here in order to switch between the images is just double click on the cycle image button, the transform button there. Just wanted to point out that we do have these stair icons in certain locations. Just indicates that this is where a player or a token will change elevations, so they need to step on those locations in order to go up to the next elevation. So if I was to bring my token over, you can step here and we can see his elevation is now changed to 10 feet, and he has a slightly different view of things. You can see the top of the bridge now, for instance. If he steps past it and steps back down onto that stair again, we can see that he's now lowered back down to elevation 0. You can't see the top of the bridge until he climbs up onto it. So this is a good time to talk about elevation 10. So this is the first floor, kind of the hillside area. So the main thing I want to talk about here, we've talked about the stairs, but we do have this bridge over here on the southern part of the map, and we have some bridge controls in the left margin. So I've just set this up as I have for many of my other scenes, where you can set it as broken, intact, or you can set it up as a trap so it would break when a token enters. Right now we can see we have the bridge intact, trap disarmed option selected. So when we select our token, walk over the bridge in this location, nothing happens. It's just a regular bridge. If we then go to trap or bridge intact, trap armed, we can see that some hashed tiles appear over the bridge. Those simply indicate where the trap will be triggered. So if we have our token, as long as he doesn't step in those hashed tiles, nothing happens. But as soon as he steps on one of the hash tiles, the game pauses, the GM is sent a message, and we're asked if we want to activate the trap. If you do activate the trap, sounds will play and image will change. So we'll just hit yes. Here's the bridge collapsing, and now we're asked if we want to send the token down to elevation 0. So I'll say yes. I'll just automatically change his elevation and play the sound of splashing water. And if we go back up to elevation 10 now, there's a hash tile over top of the water. Now whenever a token enters that, they will just automatically drop down into the water, as they should, because nothing's stopping, no bridge to hold them up. Okay, next I'll just quickly show you here. We have another viewpoint, so if we were to double click on this guy, it would show us what the Abbey looks from this direction. Okay, so that's elevation 10. I'll just note a couple of other things for elevation 10 here. I'll bring our token all the way to the north of the scene, and of course I drop him on the elevation chain, so I just got to go back down and come back up. Now I'm on elevation 10. Well, the first thing I want to show is that, again, we have roof tiles, so if we hover over them, they'll disappear and show what's below. If I hit the door now, the doors do rotate open and we can see within. Each light automatic, so all you have to do is double click on them. You can see there is this lamp icon beside each of the lights, so you need to double click on that. The reason I use this is because sometimes lights overlap on different levels, so I want to make sure their triggers are separated, or else you'll be hitting 2 levels at once when you're trying to trigger these. So for this one, it doesn't make much of a difference, but all you need to do is double click on that lamp icon and we can see that the light turns on and the images change. We can show you that quickly. So if I take this tile, we can see that's the light tile that was now showing for this light. And then when you switch it off, that light tile turns invisible. So it's just the lamp now. And that's for all the lights that have been included in the scene. You can double click on each and they should switch tiles and turn on the lights. So here we just have a bit of a warehouse area. To the bottom right, we have kind of a cellar, and the cellar can actually be accessed from above, from 2 levels above this. There's a trapdoor that can be opened, and players can fall down that trapdoor into the cellar here. So I'm going to keep on walking around with our token, see what else the Abbey holds for us. So here we can see a bit of a dining room. Again, just demonstrate the lights. And just double click them, turn on, and then as we go further into the Abbey, you can see a bit of a bedroom built underneath. And then Here we can climb the stairs up onto the 3rd floor of the Abbey. Again, we have a lantern here so we can turn the fireplace on. Turn it off by double clicking, and then we have one here beside this lantern. Double click that, this lantern will turn on. So now we can see we're on the 3rd floor, what I call the Abbey courtyard. And here in the courtyard you can see yet another viewpoint. So if we double click on that, you can see what the view looks like from this location, looking down the big set of stairs that lead up to the Abbey. If I take my token here, I can open up yet another room. You can see here, if I'm just walking around with my token, nothing is happening, but there is an interaction point on the floor here. So if I double click on that, it opens up the trapdoor and we can see an elevation change, a set of stairs here. So now if a token enters that square where the trapdoor is, they would descend down to elevation 10, the 1st floor. So before the token didn't move when it walked over the trapdoor. Now if he walks onto the trapdoor, he actually descends. You can see his elevation's changed to 10 feet. And if we were to close it again, and the token walks over it, he does not descend. So as long as it's closed, tokens will automatically descend. Outside here is just a bit of a balcony. We'll go into our last rooms over here. Actually, yes, over here. It's got a bit of a hallway, a set of stairs leading up. Moving doors. And lights that activate. Another balcony here, which kind of allows access to this kind of building to the far left of the Abbey. And again, we have toggleable lights here. We also have a door, kind of like a French door, where it just leads to like a bit of a balcony so they can open it up and get a bit of air into their room. Also here we have another interaction point, which I kind of skipped over. It's on top of a ladder, so if you just click on it, it asks if you want to use the ladder. If you hit yes, it moves you onto the ladder and up to the next elevation, where we see another level with triggerable lights. And if you double click on the interaction point, it'll just make you descend again. This is going to work identically to the interaction point in this building. Puts us up to the next level, yet another place where some of the Abbey monks or worshippers would be living. Bell Tower. So we can see a little shrine for making offerings, and again, I'll kind of fade them, but there is another lantern here, another lantern down here. So for each of the sets of candles, you can turn them on and off, depending on what time of day you want. There is a secret door here on this level that leads down to that crypt, which I showed you on the ground elevation. So in the margins of the scene, we have an open and close option. These have to be double clicked in order to open this secret door. So if your players are searching, you'll just have to manually open it by double clicking here. So if you hit open, double clicked, rotates the door open and opens the door so players can now see. And they can see the stairs heading down. And then if you want to close it, you just double click on close. And then the players can't see anything. It looks like a regular wall again. So double click to open, and we can take our players down the stairs and into the crypt far below. So you can't really just close the secret door. You really need to double click on the options here just to see a bit of a quirk of Monk's active tiles where it doesn't quite work with secret doors, what works with regular doors. So just double click, it'll close it. Okay, now we can climb up to the rest of the bell tower. Again, use the stair icons to change elevations. And here we are up on the balcony level. You can look out and see everything on this level. And then we're going to, and we can use the ladder in here to climb up to the elevation 70-foot level. So that's our, kind of skipped the 4th level, but went straight up to the bell level. You can see here, kind of in the rafters with the bell. Now if we want to get back down, we have to move aside, see the interaction point again, hit yes, and it'll descend us back down to elevation 50. Brings us to the end of the scene. I hope you guys like it. It's a scene I've wanted to tackle for a while. Took a long time trying to organize all the levels, make sure they lined up perfectly. Hope you guys like it. I'm going to leave it at that for the day. I'm going to be moving on to updating all of my modules to V13. Also not producing new scenes for September. I paused my Patreon for that month. Okay, bye for now.